विश्वनाथ इंगळे फोटो चेंज करा. Okay. Very good afternoon, everyone. This is Dr. Sanket Charkha from Sinhagad Institutes, Savitribai Phule, Pune University. Now, starting with the concept of the lectures of the second topic, we have started of Sale of Goods Act of 1930. While dealing with the Sale of Goods Act, we have seen or we have understood what is the contract of sale of the Sale of Goods Act and what are the various essential elements of sale. From section 2.1, we have understood the definition of buyer, and section 2.13, the definition of seller. The person who buys or agrees to buy, and the person who sells or agrees to sell, it's called as a buyer and seller respectively. Essential conditions of sale, that is, it is absolute or conditional. The property as of Sale of Goods Act means general property and not the special property, and it includes both the concept, that is the concept of contract of sale as well as the concept of agreement to sell. SOGA, that is Sale of Goods Act, is applicable only to the movable goods, and for immovable property, the Transfer of Property Act is applicable. Definition of sale and agreement to sell, their property and goods in transferred immediately from buyer to the seller, then that particular type of contract is called as a contract of sale. The seller or buyer agrees to transfer the property and goods at a certain future date, then such type of contract is called as an agreement to sell from the perspectives. Essential elements of a Sale of Goods Act, that is, must be two parties, subject matter is goods, consideration, price is promised or paid, transfer of property, absolute or conditional, and other essential elements of a valid contract with respect to ICA, that is 1872. Formalities of contract of sale, that is subject matter, that is goods, which may be either three types, that is existing goods, future goods, and contingent goods. Effect of destruction of goods, that is, if the goods get destroyed, then the entire loss falls either on the buyer, depending on the transfer of ownership or transfer of property that has been undertaken. Transfer of property is the concept of either the immediate or the part or installment. Price or consideration, that is with respect to section 9 and 10, it deals with whether the price consideration, whether it is paid immediately, then that particular type of contract is called as a contract of sale, and if it is paid at a certain future date, then it is called as an executory contract, an agreement to sell. Stipulation as to time, section 11 deals with whenever, as per the terms and needs and requirement of that particular contract, the contract can be performed immediately or the contract can be performed at a certain future date. Definition with respect to contract of sale, that is section 4.3 and 4b, deals with if the property and goods is transferred immediately from seller to the buyer, the contract is said to be a contract of sale, a type of an executory contract. But at a certain future date, then it will be called as an agreement to sell, a type of an executory contract. Difference between sell and agreement to sell, we have also seen about what are the various participants or what are the various composition with respect to the major differentiation. Now, next example, we have seen what is the difference between sell and hire purchase system. Sell and executed contract, and hire purchase is a particular concern wherein the property and goods is transferred on payment of certain sums in a certain fixed installment. So if you are making a certain payment in terms of an installment, then only when the final installment is been paid, then the contract of sell is into existence. Otherwise, until and unless the final amount of a particular hire purchase contract agreement is not been fulfilled, then accordingly your contract cannot be executed. If an installment fails, so if in a certain duration, if 10 installments have been decided and accordingly you do not pay the entire amount in terms of 10 installment, then accordingly your contract stands cancelled and you have a certain option of repudiation of contract. Sell and bailment, only transfer of possession, no property and goods has been transferred. So you only get the possession of the goods and services, but you are not treated as the owner of the goods and services, and you are not having any property or any ownership rights. No custody of goods. Now it depends on the person, it depends person to person, nature to nature, and type of contract which you are entering into. Either you may get a custody of the goods, either or you may not get the custody of goods which are being dealt with. Sell and barter, wherein you are exchanging goods to goods, money to money, and accordingly the particular product or particular commodity is being exchanged for one another. Now, section 12, we have further seen with what is the concept and what is the meaning of condition and warranty. With respect to condition is stipulation to the main purpose of contract. So, always condition must be fulfilled, must be associated with the main purpose of contract. So, if the main purpose of the contract is not fulfilled, if it is found that the main purpose of contract is of a breach nature, then accordingly it would give rise to contract to be repudiated. Now, repudiation in simple terms or simple means cancellation of an entire contract. So, you can cancel the entire contract if a particular stipulation, which is a condition, which is main purpose of the contract, if it is not been fulfilled. Provisions related to transfer of property, which is under the three effect, that is transfer of property as between seller and buyer, transfer of title as to sale of goods, and transfer of ownership rights. So where you can say, or at what time or at what place when you can say that ownership is transferred from one person to another person. Then we have understood where we have dealt with a certain concept called as a warranty. Section 12.2 deals with the concept of warranty, wherein a stipulation which is a collateral or alternative or subjective to the main purpose of contract, the breach of which would give rise to claim to damages but not reject the goods and cannot be treated as repudiated. So If a warranty has been arised, if you see that a warranty has been breached, then accordingly on the basis of section 212 of SOGA, it is a collateral purpose, which is main purpose, collateral, which is main purpose with the purpose of that particular contract, and you can claim only damages and reject the goods, but you cannot get the entire contract as cancelled. So you can refund those particular goods, and accordingly the seller can replace the goods which has been delivered to you. So always there is a secondary importance with respect to the warranty, and within the warranty period, if the product fails, then accordingly the seller will replace the product, but will not cancel that particular contract. So if a particular, now you are purchasing a refrigerator, now whenever a particular refrigerator is been purchased and you find it unfit for your consumption, or if it is not performing his activity according to the warranty terms and conditions, then accordingly what the person will do, he will just make the replacement, and accordingly the or a particular damage will be replaced, and accordingly the repairs and maintenance will be taken for that particular refrigerator, but the entire contract will not be cancelled as and when it has been required. So here the example of given wherein the intention of the goods is of utmost importance, and accordingly you have to see for what purpose, for what motive you are purchasing those goods and services. Difference between condition and warranty: as to condition essential to the main purpose, warranty is a collateral to the main purpose. Aggrieved party can repudiate the contract and claim damages, and here only can claim damages, and a breach of condition can be treated as a warranty, but a breach of warranty cannot be treated as a breach of condition. Then we have seen what are the exceptions to the rule of the fitness for a buyer purpose and the goods which are of a treatable, of an merchantable quality and nature. Then we have also dealt with the concept of express and implied condition and warranty, wherein an express condition and warranty are those which have been expressly upon by the parties at the time of entering into that particular contract. So at the time of contract, if you have specifically mentioned what are the terms and conditions of that particular contract, then we can say that expressed, implied or explicit condition is into existence. And if a particular parties are expressly mentioning that these are the terms and conditions of this particular contract, then we can say that the expressed condition and warranty are into existence. Implied condition as to section 14, 15, 16, 1, 62, 63 and 17 deals with the implied condition as to title, as to sell by description, as to quality and fitness of goods, as to merchantability, as to custom, and as to sell by sample. So here in this case, at every stage we have dealt in detail about what are the various implied conditions in terms of the buyer and in terms of seller, which each one of us has to fulfill or each one has to follow. Implied warranty as to quiet possession, free from encumbrances, and quality and fitness of goods for the international purpose of trade. And lastly, disclosing the dangerous nature or hazardous nature or cause of that particular goods and services. Now moving with the next topic, that is the doctrine of caveat emptor. So section 16 specifically deals with the consideration of doctrine of caveat emptor, which specifically means let the buyer beware. So at every stage, at every point, what we have to see that whenever a particular contract of sale is being undertaken between the buyer and seller, it is always the duty of the buyer and it is always the duty of the seller to exchange the information between each other. So whenever a particular seller is showing a particular product to the customer or to a particular consumer or particular purchaser, accordingly it is his duty to inform all the participants, all the components of that particular product, and accordingly each and every single information regarding to that particular product must be given to the consumer. In the reverse situation, if a particular buyer or if a particular purchaser or if a particular consumer is going to purchase a certain product, it is his duty to ask as many maximum number of questions to the seller about the product fitness, quality, and what product he is been purchasing for. So it is completely duty of the buyers and sellers respectively. The seller is not bound to supply goods which he should be fit for any particular purpose or which should possess any particular quality. It is a buyer's duty to select goods of his own requirements. So the doctrine of caveat emptor majorly focuses on the concept of buyer as a major responsibility. The seller is ready to give the certain information for you, but the buyer has to quote certain terms and conditions, and if the terms and conditions have been quoted by the respective buyer, it is completely the duty of that particular buyer to identify that whatever product he has been taking or whatever product that he is purchasing, it is as per his need, requirement, and satisfaction level. So the seller may show you 10 types of product, but it is ultimately the decision of the buyer to purchase which product and which to purchase which not to product. So always the buyer has to be very careful by purchasing the goods and services, and whatever goods have been displayed for him, he has to see that which goods is comfortable for him, and accordingly the purchase decision has to be undertaken. A vendor cannot actively disguise defects in an article sold that will amount to positive fraud. Yet another doctrine, general doctrine of caveat emptor, he is not ordinarily bound to disclose every defect that he may be cognizant or he is not visible to under normal inspection. So here At this stage, you cannot claim a particular seller stating that this particular product or this particular feature of the commodity was not mentioned to him. So in this case, what he has to do, what the buyer has to do, the buyer has to ask as many questions to that particular seller, and accordingly, whatever his purpose, whatever his motive or intention for purchasing that particular product, he has to get everything clarified from that particular seller, and accordingly, he has to purchase those goods and services. So ultimately, we cannot treat a particular seller as a particular person who is of a fraudulent activity or who is causing cheating activity or a certain misconception at this particular level. And always the buyer must rely that the seller is giving the particular product which is fit for his consumption, and the seller must rely that the buyer is known of all the product, all his commodity, and accordingly he has understood what product he has been purchasing and for what purpose he is buying those goods and services. So here there are different case studies with respect to the case studies of Goddard versus Hobbs and select a sale of animal who is ill. So at this case, what happened, there was a certain case study with respect to Goddard and Hobbs, and Goddard was a particular person and he was willing to purchase certain animals from Hobbs. Hobbs was a particular person who was also ready to sell certain animals, but at the time of purchasing this particular contract or at the time of performance, it is your duty, the duty of that particular buyer to identify whether the goods are of a comfortable nature or not, and based on the comfortability, it is the duty of that particular seller sorry, it is the duty of that particular buyer to identify whether they are fit for the consumption, whether they are fit for use or not. And if the particular buyer finds that the product or the commodity that he is purchasing for his consumption or for day-to-day expenditure, then at this stage, if the product is not for as per his comfortability or as per the fitness of purpose or nature, then accordingly he may have a right to reject those goods and services. Buyer's own risk cannot hold every time seller responsible. So here at every stage we cannot hold the seller responsible, but it is always association of the buyer's responsibility also. So buyer also has to take the responsibility for acceptance and information of the goods and services. Now, considering the situation wherein rule as to when the property and goods is passes from seller to the buyer. So what are the various terms, what are the various situations in which the property or the ownership right in goods has been passing from seller to the buyer? First thing, express or implies passing of ownership. So if a particular seller implies or expressly tells that I am selling these goods and services to you, then from that point or from that location, the ownership rights are been transferred from the seller to the buyer. So if there is a mutual agreement, if there is a mutual consent between the two parties, then accordingly based on those concepts we can say or we can identify that the property and goods has been transferred from one person to another person. Property or goods with or without the delivery of goods. So with the delivery or without the delivery of the goods specifically mentions of a particular concern or a situation wherein if you are actually in receipt of the delivery of the goods and services, then with delivery or with delivery of the goods and services, then accordingly based on that particular concern also the property and goods is been transferred from seller to buyer immediately. That is, you went to a particular shop, but whenever you are purchasing those goods and services, you have not yet made the payment, but you have received the delivery of those goods and services. Then in that particular position or in that particular case also, the property in goods gets transferred. That is, the ownership right in goods gets transferred from seller to the buyer, depending upon rights and liabilities of seller and buyer if they are exchanged. So if the seller and buyer, if they are exchanging their property or if they are exchanging their rights and liabilities, then accordingly whenever these particular rights and liabilities have been exchanged, whenever a particular contract is coming into existence, then at that place also the property in goods, that is the ownership rights of those goods and services, are being exchanged or are being transferred from seller to buyer. Specific goods in deliverable state. Now specific goods in delivered state is an example of particular goods which are of a certain origin or which are of a certain nature wherein they need actual manufacturing or production activity that has to be undertaken. Now I have placed a certain order with Desai Bandhu Ambewale, and what I have said that I want to purchase 100 mangoes, and the particular costing or the amount has been paid in an earlier stage. That is, I have made an advance payment. Now whenever you make an advance payment, when the property of goods will be transferred, when I'll get the ownership of these particular goods, only when the actual mangoes or only when the actual product or commodity will be manufactured. Unless and until the product or the goods are not being manufactured, unless and until the mangoes are into existence, I cannot treat or I cannot say that the property of goods has been transferred. So as soon as the particular situation arises or as soon as a particular condition arises wherein the goods are of a deliverable state, the goods are ready to be delivered, ready to be consumed, then at this stage we can say that the property of goods has been transferred from seller to the buyer. Price is ascertained by weighing. That is, now there is certain concept or certain concern wherein weighting or weighing of a particular commodity is of utmost importance. So at any stage, if a particular product is being weighed at a certain level, then at that stage also the goods have been identified as a property of goods have been transferred from the seller to the buyer. That is, you went to a particular shop and accordingly you placed a certain order. Based on your order, what happened? The person goes to his warehouse and accordingly he starts weighing that particular product. कि उसने क्या किया, अपना गुड्स और कमोडिटी लेके तराजू पे रख दिया। सो कोई भी एक कमोडिटी अगर तराजू पे रखी जाती है, तो एट दिस स्टेज व्हेनेवर पर्टिकुलर गुड्स इज बीन वेट, देन फ्रॉम द पर्सपेक्टिव ऑफ एसओजी ऑफ इंडियन origin, it has been treated that the property in goods has been transferred from, or it is passed from seller to the buyer immediately. If the goods are of an uncertain nature and you have made a certain payment for the uncertain goods also, then at this stage also the property of goods is been transferred. That is, for example, you gave a certain phone call, and based on your phone call you placed a certain order of those goods and services, and accordingly based on the order that was being placed, you have made a payment to the particular vendor or that particular seller also. So in this case, as soon as you make a payment to the interested party, that is, you make a payment to that particular seller, then that at that place also the property or the ownership rights in the goods passes from seller to the buyer immediately. Goods sent on sale or approval or return basis. Now a particular sample has been distributed, and accordingly a particular sample is been brought to your home. Now whenever you receive a certain sample of the goods and services at your home or at your doorstep, and based on the sample that was been delivered for you, accordingly you give approval, or accordingly you place a certain order with that particular person. So whenever a particular order is been placed, or whenever approval is given by a certain buyer for purchase of those goods and services of the specified quantity, then at that stage also the property in goods or the ownership right in goods is been passed, or it has been transferred from seller to the buyer. So अगर कोई आपके पास आता है और कोई आपको फ्री सैंपल दिखाता है, और वो फ्री सैंपल के बेसिस पे अगर आपने ऑर्डर प्लेस किया, आपने गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज परचेज कर दिया, और आपने परचेज करने के लिए अगर अप्रूवल देते हैं, देन ऑल्सो एट दिस स्टेज वी कैन से दैट द प्रॉपर्टी और द ओनरशिप राइट्स इन गुड्स इज बीन ट्रांसफर्ड फ्रॉम सेलर टू द बायर immediately. Reservation of right of disposal. So right of disposable is a particular concern wherein you want to dispose of a certain property of goods and services. So if a particular goods and services gets disposed of, then according, that is, for example, whenever a particular order was being placed and when the order was being procured, at the time of the delivery the goods gets damaged or the goods get disposed of, that is, they are not fit for consumption and they are not fit for usage. So in this case also what happened, at this stage we can identify that the property was already been transferred, the payment was being made, and actually the weightage of those goods and services was also been done. So in this case, if the goods are ready for the disposable, then accordingly based on those concerns, the property or the ownership rights passes from seller to the buyer. Passing of risk, if the risk is been passed from one person to another person, that is, either the payment is made or either the goods have been delivered in a proper condition, then on those particular concerns also the property in goods gets transferred immediately. Transfer of title by non-owner. So if at any stage if a particular product is been identified for which there are non-owners, so based on the concept of non-owners also the property gets transferred from one person to another person. So for example, a relationship between a son and father. Now at this stage, for example, a particular son goes to a particular shop, and accordingly based on his father's credibility, if he purchase those goods and services, so a credibility of father is been acquired, it has been purchased, and based on the credibility of that particular father, the goods have been acquired or their goods have been purchased. So in this case, the property gets transferred from one person to another person only when, or at a particular situation wherein the non-owner, or that is a particular person who is not into existence, on his name also if you are purchasing those goods and services, then also the ownership rights, the property of the goods gets transferred from one person to another person. Another example, that is by estoppel, that is representation. So if a particular person is been estopped or prohibiting from conducting any activity, then at that particular stage also the property of the goods gets transferred from one person to another person. Now here you must have everyone must have watched the movie called as Bunty and Bubbly. Now Bunty and Bubbly was a particular movie in which what they used to do, they used to change their name, they used to change their habitat, they used to change their presentation accordingly, they used to steal the products and commodities from different malls and so on. So in a particular incident, what happened, they have made a certain role of a particular customer and they entered a particular mall, and whenever they entered that particular mall in the late night, what happened, they filled a particular refrigerator, washing machine, और वो washing machine के अंदर उन्होंने सारे watches fill up किए थे, that is Tata, Titan वगैरह and so on. And after a point of time, what happened, they went to the warehouse, वो warehouse से उन्होंने washing machine निकाला था, और washing machine जो watches उसमें थे, they went up and sold out in the open market. So at this stage, if a particular seller, that is either the Bunty or Bubbly, if they are selling this such type of product into the market, and at this stage also what was the perception of the people कि Bunty और Bubbly वो product के real owners है और वो fake owners है, किसी को पता भी नहीं था. So in this case, the property of goods can be identified only when the particular person is having a certain representation. So if you identify that a particular person is having the property ownership or the deliver the goods and services, or he is in the ownership or possession of those activity, then accordingly they will be treated as a real owners of those product or those commodity, and accordingly we can identify that the property or the ownership right has been transferred from one person to another person. by mercantile agent. So if any agent is been appointed on your behalf and that particular agent makes a certain payment on your concern, then also at this stage we can identify that a particular property has been transferred from one person to another person. If the property has been transferred by one of the joint owners, so if one of the joint owners are into existence and any one party to the contract is making a certain terms of payment, then at this particular stage also we can identify, we can see that a particular property gets transferred from one person to another person. That is a particular property which is owned by several people, that is there are 2 or 3 or 4 owners associated with a particular property. So if any one party to the contract signs that particular agreement and accordingly the contract of sale is being executed, then at this stage also we can say that the contract of sale is of a proper nature and accordingly the property or the ownership rights has been transferred from the seller to the buyer who is purchasing those goods and services. Person in possession in a voidable contract. So what is a voidable contract? A voidable contract is a type of contract wherein which is at the option of the party whether to execute or whether not to execute. So we have seen various different types of contract also. So void, valid, voidable, illegal, unlawful, and so on. So in that particular concern, on the basis of enforceability, we have seen which are the various different types of contracts. So if a voidable contract is being entered and accordingly at the time of entering into voidable contract, the person is into possession of those goods and services in authority, then at this stage also we can say or we can identify that the property in goods is been transferred from one person to another person, that is specifically from seller to the buyer. Seller in possession after sale, buyer passes better title to the third party. Now in this particular example, for example, a particular goods or a particular transaction has been undertaken, that is A entered a particular shop and accordingly he placed a certain order with B. Now whenever A has placed a certain order, accordingly B was packaging those goods and services and accordingly the payment was also made by A. But after the contract of sale was been executed, Mr. A gets a sudden phone call and he rushes back to his home or he rushes to his office accordingly. Now the payment was being made, the order was being procured, but the possession of the goods, that is the delivery of the goods and services, was not being undertaken. So at this stage, if another customer comes in and he places the same order, then accordingly how will the property will be passed? The property will be passed betterly to person C in case of A, that has been a defective title. So in this case, we have to identify about whether the title in the goods is better or whether the title is defective. So if the third person who is available to that particular contract, if he purchase the goods at the same quantity, same price, same level, then he gets a better title over the title that has been available to the first party to the contract. Buyer in possession before paying a price. So if a particular buyer who has received the possession, who has received the delivery of the goods and services before paying the price, that is before the payment is made, the goods and services have been delivered to him, then accordingly the property and goods gets transferred from seller to the buyer immediately. Now who is an unpaid seller? We have a different definition, or we have a different concern with respect to unpaid seller. We'll deal with this particular concept in detail at a lateral stage. Next thing, last point, that is by official receiver, assignee, pledgee, or liquidator. So if at any stage, if a particular official receiver, assignee, pledgee, liquidator has been appointed for your transaction or for your commodity or for your business, then who is having the better title? The official receiver, assignee, pledgee, or liquidator is having a better title as compared to the title that is being owned by a particular seller. So seller की टाइटल डिफेक्टिव हो जाएगी और ये जो सारे पर्सन्स है, whether it is official receiver, assignee, pledgee, or liquidator, they will be having a better title or a positive title or a good title in comparison to the seller, and the same title will be transferred from these persons, that is official receiver, assignee, pledgee, or liquidator, to the buyer respectively, who is purchasing that goods and services. Now the various short note with respect to transfer of title. So nemo dat quod non habet is a particular concern wherein in the case of a certain concern we have to identify about what is the title of that particular goods and services that he is holding for. No seller can transfer a better title than he or she has. A seller defective passes the same to the buyer. For protection of true owners, title become defective. So in this case, nemo dat quod non habet specifically deals with a particular concern. It is a French and German quotation wherein it deals with a certain concept of transfer of title. So if the seller is having a defective title, the same title or the same ownership right has been transferred from seller to the buyer accordingly, if the buyer also gets a defective title. Now, for example, the example that we have already taken of Bunty and Bubbly watches. So Bunty and Bubbly, what they used to do, they used to steal the material, steal the goods and services or commodities from different locations, and accordingly they used to cheat people. Now, can the Bunty and Bubbly be called the real owners of those goods and services? No, we cannot call them as a real owners. Why? Because they have identified, they have acquired those goods and services with a certain fraudulent activity or with misrepresentation. So in this case, to whomsoever the goods and services have been sold. Now, what do we see? They went to a particular market in Banaras or Varanasi, and accordingly they start selling those watches, washing machine, fridge, refrigerator in that particular open market. So a particular person who is purchasing those quantity, who is purchasing those goods, they also get a defective title. Why? Because initially the purchaser, that is the Bunty and Bubbly, were not having the defective title. They were not having an effect. They were not having a better title. The title of Bunty and Bubbly was itself defective, and hence in another case, the person who is purchasing those goods and services also gets a defective title. So if a seller itself is having a defective title, the buyer will be also having a defective title, and the person to whom the third sale is being made, he also gets a defective title at this particular stage. Now, there are certain exceptions to this particular general rule of transfer of title, that is sale by mercantile agents. That is the case study of Fox versus King, that is sale of car below price. So if a particular goods and services have been sold below a certain price that has been mentioned, and it is based on the certain merchantability or the quality of those goods and services, then at this stage we can identify that a particular transaction can be of a better nature, and accordingly, and on the basis of merchantability of the goods and services, the title can be quite effective. So if the particular buyer has identified the goods and services, and he feels that the goods and services are fit for my consumption, fit for use, then accordingly he can enter into that particular contract, and accordingly a better title can be passed from one person to another person. Sell by person in possession of goods under a voidable contract. So in terms of a voidable contract, a particular person may understand a certain quantity, or he may understand a certain commodity in which he may either purchase or he may not purchase the goods and services. So if you are in a possession, or if you are in you have the possession or the property of goods and services, then accordingly you may feel to purchase or you may feel to sell a particular goods, or sell the amount of quantity that you have purchased. Now, if you are feeling that the quantity of goods and services must not be purchased or must not be sold, then accordingly the decision may be taken, and you may understand or you may think of passing a bona fide title, or you may passing of a defective title. So it is completely dependent on the seller whether he wants to pass a defective title or whether he wants to pass a bona fide title. Sell by a seller in possession after sale. So if at a particular stage, if the seller remains in possession of that particular sale, then at this stage also we can say that the seller is having a defective title. So a particular person is entering a particular shop and he has purchased or placed a certain order. Now, whenever the order has been placed and the payment for that particular product is being made, still the buyer is not taking the possession or the delivery of the goods and services, then at this stage what we can say, we can see and we can identify that the seller is not in need of those goods and services. Sorry, the buyer is not in need of those goods and services, and accordingly the possession, the ownership right remains with the seller itself, and accordingly that particular title which seller is having is not of the true nature, and he will be treated as a defective title or a defective seller. Estoppel, conduct by true owners, precludes him from denying seller's authority to sell and enables innocent purchaser to get the title. So if a particular person is being stopped or prohibited from conducting a certain activity, but still intentionally he's conducting such type of activity or such type of transaction, then that particular activity in which a particular exception is made available based on the concept of estoppel, that particular transaction will be conducted as a defective title, and the seller is not having a better title as the buyer is having. Sell by one of the joint owners. So if one of the joint owners to a particular contract is conducting a certain promise, and based on that particular promise, if the goods have been transferred from one person to another person, then at this stage also nemo dat quod non habet is made applicable, and a seller is passing the same defective title to the seller. And if the seller is having a defective title, the same passes to the second buyer, third buyer, fourth buyer, and so on. So it keeps on rotating, it keeps on circulating, and the lawful effect for this particular concern is only the particular concern wherein we can identify is the seller must have a better title and a positive title over the goods and services. Now moving with the next concept, that is an auction sale. So an auction is a process of buying and selling goods and services by offering them for a bid, taking bids, and then selling the item to the winning bidder. So everyone must be knowing or must have heard the auction sale, which is in Hindi, which is called as an lilav. So in case of lilav, the procedure, everyone is knowing that a particular advertisement has to be given, and accordingly based on a particular advertisement, what do we have to do? We have to ask or we have to invite for a different bids that has been there from a general public. So advertisement is given in general public in a newspaper, and accordingly people are invited at a certain location. So for example, a particular auction has to be done for a certain house, and accordingly people are called at that particular house, and then you have to remain present at, for example, the time that is mentioned is 11 a.m. So at 11 a.m. whosoever is willing to purchase those goods and services or purchase that particular house, they have to remain present, and accordingly they have to look for what type of goods or services that they are purchasing. After a point of time, whenever all the people gets assembled, now at the assembly of these particular people, what they have to do, they have to identify about who is the prospective buyer, and all the terms and conditions of that particular goods and services must be mentioned. So what are the various terms associated, that is why this auction has been called, what is the price of the commodity, what is the basic price that has to be identified, and accordingly how the transaction will be undertaken. Based on this particular further consideration, what happened? The particular bidder is been invited. The particular person who has started this particular auction, he invites the different bids from these particular people who are available for bidding. So accordingly, people start bidding their respective prices. That is 10 lakhs, 11 lakhs, 12 lakhs, 15 lakhs, 20 lakhs, 50 lakhs, 1 crore, and so on. So at this stage, every bid is kept reserved. So a particular person who wants to purchase the goods or who wants to purchase that particular commodity, what he has to do, he has to always quote a higher bid or a higher price, whichever was been quoted earlier. And always a 3 times call is been given for conducting a auctioning selling activity. That is 50 lakh 1, 50 lakh 2, 50 lakh 3, and lastly the bid is been closed by a fall of hammer. So unless and until there is a fall of an hammer, we cannot say that the auction bid is been completed. So जब तक वो डंडा नहीं गिरता है, that is the hammer that you are seeing. Unless and until वो कहता नहीं कि 50 लाख 1, 50 लाख 2, 50 लाख 3, तब तक आपको ऑक्शन खत्म नहीं होता. And till that time the auction does not end. So within this duration, if someone person say that 51 lakh 1, then accordingly again the new bidding starts for 51 lakh 1, 51 lakh 2, and so on. So in this way, the auction sale has been undertaken, and a particular short note may be asked on this perspective. Any sale contravening the rule may be treated as a fraudulent by the particular buyer. So at this stage, every rule, every activity, every terms and conditions applies to all the buyers who are taking participation in this particular type of contract. So anyone who is participating in this particular type of contract, they have to perform all their promises. All the conditions are made applicable to those particular people, and accordingly they have to perform their promises respectively. The bidder has the option to withdraw before the acceptance of his bid is been symbolized. So before the bid has been closed, the bidder has a certain option about whether to symbolize the bid or whether not to symbolize the bid. But that is whether to close or whether to keep the bid open as and when it has been required. Now, what are the various rules with respect to auction sale? So every separate lot, a separate offer and proposal. So always the auction sale is an example of an offer and proposal and not an example of contract or an agreement to sell. So in this case, whatever offers that you are looking for. So if you say that my first price is 10 lakh, you say second price is 20 lakhs, then the price becomes 30 lakhs, then the price becomes 50 lakhs, then the price becomes 1 crore. Then accordingly, every price that you are quoting, that particular price becomes an offer, and accordingly you are giving a proposal or you are giving a certain attempt or in certain agreement has been passed. And every separate law, so for a separate transaction, for a separate activity, for a separate product that you are trying to purchase or willing to purchase, you have to provide a separate lot, and accordingly in different lots the goods and services has to be purchased. Invitation offer and not just the offer itself. So there is a major differentiation between an offer and what is an invitation to offer. So anything that you see in a newspaper is just an invitation to offer, and anything which is given to you directly, that particular concern is called as an offer itself. So for example, you get a certain invitation for a certain marriage or for a certain function, then we can say that a particular offer has been given for you. And if you get a certain invitation in terms of newspaper, which is general offer, then that particular concept or thing can be called as an invitation to offer. Reserve rights of the seller. Now in terms of an auction sale, always the rights have been reserved with respect to a seller who is identified and the person who is selling those goods and services. So always the seller is having a reserve right, and he has to see about what terms and conditions he has to fulfill. So the particular seller can change the rights, so terms, conditions, whatever the conditions that the terms that are made available. And if a particular seller fees for the alteration or the repudiation of that particular contract, accordingly he can change all those conditions or all those terms and services. May be voidable if pretended bidding is into existence. So if a particular concern of a particular seller feels or if a particular buyer feels that a pretended bidding has been undertaken, then accordingly the entire contracts becomes cancelled. Now for example, in terms of your auction sale, if you feel that a particular person is a particular person who is ultimately or he is pretending to increase the price of that particular product. The original valuation of the particular product is rupees 50 lakhs, and unnecessary the price that has been quoted is rupees 60 lakhs, 70 lakhs, and so on. Then at this stage we can identify or we can see that a pretended bidding, that is जानबूझ के वो product की price बढ़ाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं. So for this stage we can say that if a particular product pricing is being increased at a very lateral stage for a particular purpose or for purpose motivation, then we can say that a pretended bidding is being undertaken. Next thing, ownership rights. So always we have to see that what are the various ownership rights that have been associated with a particular person or with an individual. So ownership rights may differ from person to person, seller to seller, buyer to buyer, and so on. So if there are more number of sellers, accordingly the ownership rights will differ. If there are more number of sellers, the ownership rights will differ. So always in terms of an auction sale, we have to identify that the ownership rights are remained with the seller itself, and accordingly he is having a better title or a clear title on the goods and services that he has been purchasing for that or whatever he is availing for. Now, next concept we have the concept of unpaid seller. A seller is deemed to be unpaid when. So, what a particular now the meaning or the term itself means a particular seller, he can be called as an unpaid seller if the amount is not paid. So, a seller is deemed to be unpaid when whole of the price is not paid or tendered, part payment is long due or unpaid, or bill of exchange, check or promissory note is conditional and if gets dishonored. So, first thing, whole of the price is not paid. So, you went to a particular shop and accordingly you place a certain order, and if the order has been delivered, that is the goods have been delivered to you and you do not make a certain payment, that is the bill was costing rupees 5,000 and you have not made a certain payment, then accordingly the seller becomes unpaid. Part payment is long due or unpaid, that is you paid it 3,000 rupees and 2,000 rupees are pending, and accordingly you say that by the end of the day, that is in the evening, you will pay 2,000 rupees. So if that 2,000 rupees is also unpaid, then accordingly the seller can be called as an unpaid seller. Or another example, that is in case of 5,000 payment, you have given a certain amount of check and accordingly the check or a bill of exchange gets dishonored by a certain bank. कि अगर वो check bounce हो जाता है, dishonor होता है, then also a seller can be called as an unpaid seller. What are the various rights of an unpaid seller? So what are the rights that an unpaid, अगर आप unpaid seller हो या कोई आपको दिखता है कि वो unpaid seller है, so what are his rights? So first thing, rights of an unpaid seller against goods. First thing, right of lien, that is retaining the position. So he can retain the quality, he can retain the position of those goods and services, and he can see that the goods and services are not delivered to the particular seller. So right of lien, so right to control the ownership rights with respect to goods and services in terms of delivery. Stoppage in transit. So if at any stage he feels that a bill of exchange promissory note has been dishonored, then accordingly if the goods are in a transit, if the goods have been transferred from one place to another place, one location to another location, then at this stage also the particular seller can give a certain order for stoppage of stoppage of goods in the transit level also. So in this case, we have to identify if the goods are being moving from one place to another place, that is if the goods are yet to be delivered, still the seller, if he feels that the goods that the payment will not be made and the seller will be remaining unpaid, then accordingly he can stop the delivery of the goods and services. Effect of pledge. If a certain promise has been given by the particular buyer to the seller, and if he feels that the pledge cannot be undertaken, the pledge cannot be fulfilled, the pledge cannot be identified, then based on those concerns also, based on the concept of effect of pledge, the buyer can control the delivery of the goods and services. Right of resale. If a particular seller feels that the goods that the seller will be remaining unpaid, the buyer will not make the payment of the goods and services, he can sell and if he is having the possession or the ownership right of those goods and services, if the possession is with the seller itself, then accordingly he has a certain right to resell those goods and services also. So from switching from one person to another person, he may sell those goods and services to the third party also. And lastly, right to withhold the delivery. So he can withhold the delivery, he can stop the delivery of the goods and services, and accordingly he may convey to the buyer that the particular goods and services will not be delivered, and accordingly you have to make the payment initially. Right of the unpaid seller against the buyer. So against the buyer, what right does he have? So against the buyer, first thing, sue for price. So he can go to the court of law and accordingly he can sue for the entire price that has been tendered. So if the particular bill is been costing, or if the particular quotation or the particular amount that you have been mentioned is, for example, rupees 5,000, then you can go to the court of law and accordingly entire 5,000 rupees can be claimed by a particular seller from the buyer. Sue for damages. If any damages has been incurred, if any loss has been incurred, then accordingly the seller can sue for a particular person or that particular buyer specifically for suing or for recovery of those damages. Repudiation. If the seller feels that the contract has to be repudiated, the contract has to be cancelled, then accordingly the seller can repudiate or the seller can cancel that particular contract also. Sue for the interest and principal. So at any stage, if we feel that both the perspective, that is the price and the damages, both has to be recovered, then accordingly the seller can, that is a person who is an unpaid seller, that is amount is not been paid, he can go to the court of law, he can file a civil or criminal complaint, and accordingly he can sue for both the perspective, that is he can sue for the principal amount and he can sue for the interest amount. So interest rate that has been decided by a certain court or by the order of the court, or the interest rate prevailing in the general market. So if the general market interest rate is, for example, 4%, 5%, 6%, then based on the general market rate interest perspective, you can get an interest on the principal amount also. Recovery through the order of court. So you can properly go to the court of law and accordingly you can get a certain order for recovery of those goods and services. So you can the court can pass a certain order for the payment for the conditional order with respect to the buyer for performance of that particular contract. So the buyer may has to perform the contract based on the certain considerations about in what way the contract has to perform, whether the payment has to be made or the payment has not to be made, or the contract has to be repudiated. And lastly, file suit for breach of condition and warranty. So if any breach of condition and warranty is been conducted by either the buyer or other by the seller, then accordingly the unpaid seller can go for the breach of contract at that perspectives. Now certain case studies have been there for you, that is Kalka Prasad Ramcharan versus Harish Chandra, All India report of 1957, that is 67 thans of silk, only 10 thans of silk was been delivered. So in this case, a contract was been entered between Kalka Prasad and Harish Chandra, and accordingly the contract was been decided for delivery of 67 thans of silk. Now than is a particular big circulating a big rod of a particular cloth, and accordingly 67 thans of silk was to be delivered. But what happened in actual, only 10 thans of silk was been delivered, and accordingly the entire remaining quantity was not been given. So in this case the seller remains unpaid. So what happened, he went to the court of law, and accordingly so the court has passed a certain order for performance of this particular contract, and accordingly 67 thans of silk was been delivered from the person to from the seller to the buyer accordingly. House of Lords in Soames was a British Empire shipping company, sold goods later government port. Now this is a particular case study with respect to the taxation perspective. So you can refer a bill which was been tabled, and again it was been reintroduced into this particular parliament. So in this case you can go and refer the two case studies which is of a comprehensive nature for the unpaid seller is into existence. Now, brief summarizing of the India Sale of Goods Act 1930. Who is a buyer and seller? Who buys but one who agrees to buy. So a particular buyer is a person who buys the goods, and a particular seller who is agreeing to sell the goods and services. Goods means specifically means movable property other than actionable claim and money. Existing goods, future goods, specific goods, and goods in deliverable state, and lastly delivery. So always, what does a delivery mean? That is a voluntary transfer of possession from one person to another person. So if the transfer of possession is been taken voluntary, that is from one person, now that particular specific person is from seller to the buyer, then only we can say that the delivery of the goods and services has been undertaken. Otherwise the delivery of the goods and services is not been undertaken, and hence the particular defective. Now based on your delivery, the ownership rights have been transferred, and based on your ownership, the title of the goods and services have been transferred. So if a particular seller is defective, the same is been passed to the buyer, and accordingly if the buyer is also defective, the same is been forwarded or is been moved to some another person who is into existence. So in this way we come to the conclusion of chapter 2, that is Sale of Goods Act 1930. So if you have any difficulty at this stage, you can please unmute yourself and ask me the questions, or you can drop the questions in the chat box. We'll take the questions one by one.